Man, your girlfriend is cheating now. A voice hollered as my girlfriend held hands with some stranger at the mall. I stood motionless, shocked, embarrassed, devices recording my pain. The words hit me like a freight train, cutting through the usual weekend shopping center noise. What I witnessed next would haunt me for weeks, but what I didn't know was that it was all carefully orchestrated to destroy me. I'm Ian, 23, and I work as a pharmacy technician at the CVS inside Westfield Mall. It was a typical Saturday afternoon shift. Busy, chaotic, the kind of day where every customer seems to need their prescription filled immediately. I'd been dating Zoe for 8 months, and she was everything I thought I wanted: beautiful, energetic, a dance instructor with dreams of making it big. She taught contemporary dance at her family's studio downtown and was always talking about viral marketing and building her brand. I admired her ambition, even if I didn't always understand the social media world she lived in. That Saturday, I was restocking inventory when my coworker Greg rushed over, phone already out and recording. "Dude, you need to see this right now," he said, his voice tight with something between excitement and dread. Through the pharmacy window, I could see a crowd gathering near the main fountain area. Weekend foot traffic was always heavy, but this was different. People were stopping, forming a circle, pulling out their phones. I followed Greg outside, and that's when I saw her. Zoe was standing in the center of the crowd, wearing the blue dress I'd complimented that morning when she said she was going shopping with her sister. But she wasn't with her sister. She was with Troy, her supposed ex-boyfriend from college, the one she claimed to have zero contact with anymore. He was on one knee, holding what looked like a genuine engagement ring, and Zoe was covering her mouth in theatrical surprise, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, yes, of course I'll marry you," she screamed, loud enough for half the mall to hear. The crowd erupted in applause as Troy slipped the ring on her finger and they kissed passionately, her hands tangled in his hair like she'd done with me countless times. I stood there frozen, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. This had to be some kind of mistake, some elaborate misunderstanding. Maybe it was a flash mob, maybe it was performance art for her dance studio. But then someone in the crowd noticed me, recognized me from all the times I'd picked Zoe up from the mall after her shopping trips. "Holy shit, isn't that her boyfriend over there?" The pointing started, the whispers got louder, and suddenly dozens of phones swiveled in my direction. That's when someone yelled those words that would echo in my head for weeks: "Man, your girlfriend is cheating now." The laughter that followed was brutal. People were openly recording my devastated expression, capturing every second of my confusion and heartbreak for their social media feeds. Greg kept his phone steady, filming everything while muttering, "This is insane, bro, absolutely insane." Zoe looked directly at me then, and for just a moment, I expected to see guilt or shock or some explanation in her eyes. Instead, I saw something that chilled me to the bone: satisfaction. She was enjoying this. She whispered something to Troy, who glanced over at me with a smirk that made my stomach turn. They posed for more pictures with the crowd, accepting congratulations, playing the part of the perfect engaged couple while I stood 20 feet away, visibly falling apart. The whole scene lasted maybe 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. By the time the crowd dispersed and they disappeared toward the parking garage, my phone was already buzzing with notifications. The video was spreading faster than I could have imagined, shared across every platform with captions like, "Girl dumps boyfriend at the mall for her real man," and "When you find out you're the side piece." Within 3 hours, #mallproposal was trending, and my face was attached to the most humiliating moment of my life, viewed by millions of strangers who found my pain hilarious. When I finally worked up the courage to confront Zoe that evening, she was sitting on my couch like nothing had happened, casually scrolling through her phone and laughing at the comments on the viral video. "We need to talk," I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts to stay calm. She looked up with this innocent expression that I now realize was completely calculated. "Oh, about the mall thing? Ian, you're being absolutely ridiculous. It was just a flash mob proposal performance for my dance studio's social media marketing campaign. Everyone knew it was choreographed except you, apparently." The gaslighting was immediate and ruthless. She made me feel like I was losing my mind for being upset about watching my girlfriend accept another man's proposal in front of hundreds of people. You're being pathologically jealous over professional choreography, she continued, her tone shifting to that condescending voice she used when she thought I was being stupid. Troy's a trained dancer, just like me. We were performing a scene to generate engagement for the studio's Instagram account. It's called viral marketing, Ian. Maybe if you understood social media better, you wouldn't be having this breakdown. I stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman I'd been falling in love with and the stranger sitting in front of me. Zoe, you kissed him. You were crying real tears. You looked at me like you wanted me to suffer. She rolled her eyes dramatically. It's called method acting, Ian. Good performers commit to their roles completely. The emotional authenticity is what made it go viral. Then she showed me her phone, and I felt sick all over again. She'd posted the video on her dance studio's official Instagram account with a caption that made me want to disappear. Surprise! My amazing boyfriend Ian was totally in on this flash mob proposal performance. Look at that incredible method acting when he discovers us at the mall. His shocked expression is absolutely perfect. We've been planning this viral marketing stunt for weeks. Hashtag flashmob proposal, hashtag dance studio life, hashtag method acting, hashtag behind the scenes. The comments were brutal. Thousands of people calling me everything from the world's most gullible boyfriend to an idiot who can't tell reality from performance art. But what hurt most were the people defending me, saying I looked genuinely heartbroken, only to have other users reply that my acting was just that convincing. She'd stolen even my right to be authentically hurt. See, Zoe said, showing me comment after comment. Everyone thinks you're incredibly talented. You should be proud that your natural reaction was so believable. Most people can't method act that well without training. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand she tell me the truth, but part of me was starting to doubt my own perceptions. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe this really was just some elaborate marketing scheme I didn't understand. Maybe I was being the pathetically jealous boyfriend she was making me out to be. That night, as she talked excitedly about our planned weekend getaway to her family's lake house retreat, acting like absolutely nothing had changed between us, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My phone kept buzzing with notifications as the video spread across TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and even Reddit, accumulating millions of views and thousands of shares. The captions were getting meaner. When your girlfriend's acting is so good it fools even you, and POV, you're the only one who doesn't know it's fake. But deep down, something didn't add up. The way Troy had looked at me wasn't the expression of someone performing a harmless prank. The satisfaction in Zoe's eyes when she saw my pain wasn't method acting. And the timing felt too perfect, too calculated. I started screenshotting everything, something that would prove crucial in the days ahead. The truth came from the most unexpected source. Lily worked at the mall's customer service desk and had been dating my coworker Greg for about 3 months. She was quiet, observant, the kind of person who noticed things others missed. 2 days after the mall incident, she approached me during my lunch break with a look that told me my world was about to shift again. Ian, I need to show you something and you're not going to like it, she said, pulling out her phone with hands that were actually shaking. Greg told me what happened at the mall, and I've been doing some digging because something felt really wrong about the whole situation. What she showed me made my blood run cold. Screenshots from a private Discord server called Viral Marketing Masterminds, where Zoe, Seth, her dance partner from the studio, and Troy had been planning what they called the viral breakup proposal stunt for over 6 weeks. The leaked messages were devastating and showed a level of premeditation that made me physically sick. Okay team, final strategy session, Zoe had written on January 15th. We need this to absolutely break the internet and launch me into social media stardom. Ian is the perfect target because he's so trusting and pathetic. His reaction will be pure gold. Seth had responded, I've been scouting locations. The main fountain area at Westfield gets the most foot traffic on Saturdays between 2 to 4 p.m. We'll have maximum audience and lighting. Troy's contributions were especially cruel. I've been studying his social media to understand his insecurities. This guy worships the ground Zoe walks on. When he sees me proposing to her, it'll destroy him completely. The more devastated he looks, the more viral this goes. They had planned every detail with professional precision. Seth had recruited 6 trained dancers from the studio to act as spontaneous crowd extras who would cheer and encourage other shoppers to film. They'd hired an actual videographer named Marcus who specialized in authentic-looking viral content to capture multiple camera angles while blending in with the crowd. Zoe had even tested different outfits and practiced her surprised acceptance reaction in the studio mirrors. Perfect. My crying looks so real in this lighting, she'd posted with a selfie that made me want to throw my phone. But the most damaging evidence came from their real-time celebration as the video went viral. Holy shit, 50K views in the first hour. Troy had written, Ian's deer-in-headlights expression is absolutely perfect. Look at this pathetic loser just standing there getting humiliated. This is better than we could have dreamed. Zoe's response was pure venom. He never suspected a thing. I've been playing the sweet girlfriend so perfectly. He actually thinks I love him. What an ideal victim. The comments calling him clueless are sending me. Seth had added fuel to the fire. The way he just froze when that guy yelled about his girlfriend cheating? Chef's kiss. We couldn't have scripted a better reaction if we tried. The messages continued with them analyzing my facial expressions frame by frame, laughing about my perfectly pathetic reaction, and calculating how much money they could make from the viral content. There were preliminary contracts with 3 major social media marketing companies interested in purchasing rights to the authentic public breakup content for use in advertising campaigns. The potential value was staggering, hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsorship deals, brand partnerships, and licensing agreements. But perhaps most disturbing were the messages about how they'd been studying me for weeks, analyzing my schedule, my routines, my deepest insecurities. Zoe had been screenshotting our private conversations and sharing them in the group chat to help them craft the most psychologically devastating scenario possible. He told me last week that his biggest fear is being publicly embarrassed and looking like a fool, she'd written. This will hit every single one of his psychological weak spots perfectly. As I scrolled through page after page of their calculated cruelty, Lily watched my face with genuine concern. There's more, she said quietly. I found out how I got access to these screenshots. One of the dancers they recruited, Jessica, felt so guilty about what they did to you that she leaked everything to me. She said they told the dancers you were emotionally abusive and controlling, and that this public humiliation would teach you an important lesson about respecting women. They literally painted you as a villain to justify destroying you for entertainment. Seeing those Discord screenshots changed everything for me. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd thought possible, but underneath the hurt, something else was building, a cold, methodical anger that demanded justice. I thanked Lily for her courage in bringing me the truth, then went home and spent the entire night developing a plan. I wasn't going to confront them emotionally or create some dramatic scene they could twist into more content. I was going to be strategic, systematic, and I was going to document everything. My first move was reaching out to Troy directly through Instagram DMs, pretending I wanted honest closure about what happened between us. I crafted the message carefully, playing into his obvious ego and making him think I was just a broken, confused guy seeking answers. Hey Troy, I know this is weird, but I can't stop thinking about what happened at the mall. Zoe's explanation about it being a performance doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not angry, just confused. Could we maybe talk? I just need to understand what really went down so I can move on. Troy responded within an hour, and his reply confirmed every suspicion I had. He was cocky, condescending, and apparently eager to brag about their successful scheme. Look man, I get why you're confused. What we did was pretty elaborate. But honestly, Zoe was tired of pretending to be happy with someone so ordinary. She needed an exit strategy that would benefit her career, and I was willing to help make that happen. She paid me $800 cash plus guaranteed modeling portfolio shots for my participation. I mean, it was win-win for everyone except you, obviously. The casual cruelty in his tone was staggering, but I kept my responses neutral and grateful, encouraging him to share more details. He told me about the rehearsals they'd done at the dance studio, how they tested different emotional reactions, even how Zoe had coached him on the specific way to look at me to maximize my devastation. "She really studied you, dude," he continued. "Like, she knew exactly which buttons to push. She said you were the type who'd just stand there and take it instead of fighting back, which made you perfect for viral content. Your pain looked so authentic because it was authentic." While maintaining my correspondence with Troy, I began reaching out to the dancers who'd participated as spontaneous crowd extras. Jessica, the one who'd leaked the Discord screenshots, was incredibly helpful. She connected me with 2 other dancers who were feeling guilty about their involvement. Both confirmed they'd been told I was emotionally abusive and controlling, and that the public humiliation would teach me an important lesson about respecting women. They provided detailed accounts of how Zoe had manipulated them with false stories about my supposed mistreatment, painting me as someone who deserved what was coming. One dancer, Maria, even had voice recordings of Zoe coaching them on their reactions. "Remember, when Ian sees what's happening, you need to look disapproving of him, like he's the problem here. Make sure people filming see you shaking your head at him or rolling your eyes. We want the narrative to be that he's pathetic and everyone can see it." Throughout this entire evidence-gathering phase, I maintained my normal routine with Zoe. I went to work, came home, acted like the loving boyfriend she expected me to be. She continued planning our lake house weekend getaway with obvious excitement, constantly talking about how romantic it would be and how much quality time we'd finally have together away from distractions. The irony was almost unbearable. She was eagerly anticipating a romantic weekend with the same man she'd publicly humiliated for viral fame just days earlier. But her enthusiasm gave me the perfect opportunity for the next phase of my plan. I was going to record her confession, get her to admit on camera exactly what she'd done and why she'd done it. The lake house setting would be perfect, isolated, private, just the 2 of us where she might feel comfortable being completely honest about her motivations and methods. I started carrying a small recording device everywhere, testing audio quality and learning how to operate it discreetly. Every conversation with Zoe became a potential opportunity to gather more evidence of her deception and manipulation. The hardest part was pretending everything was normal while knowing the truth about who she really was underneath that beautiful exterior. The lake house weekend became the stage for the most crucial performance of my life, pretending to be the same trusting, naive Ian while systematically extracting the truth from the woman who'd orchestrated my public destruction. Saturday evening, after we'd settled in and Zoe had consumed most of a bottle of wine, I carefully steered our conversation toward the mall incident while my hidden recording device captured every word. "I've been thinking about what happened at the mall," I said, keeping my voice casual and curious rather than accusatory. "The whole flash mob thing was so elaborate. How did you guys plan something that sophisticated?" Her eyes lit up with the pride she'd been suppressing all week, and the wine had clearly loosened her tongue beyond any reasonable caution. "Oh my God, Ian, it was absolutely brilliant," she said, leaning forward with genuine excitement. "You have no idea how much work went into making it look spontaneous. We spent weeks choreographing every single moment, every reaction, every camera angle." As she continued talking, the full scope of her calculated cruelty emerged. "The truth is, I've been wanting to break up with you for months, but I needed to do it in a way that would launch my influencer career. Just ghosting you or having a normal breakup conversation wouldn't give me the viral content I needed to get noticed by major brands." She took another sip of wine and her confession became even more damning. "Troy and I have been planning this since December. We researched viral breakup videos, studied what makes content explode on social media, analyzed the psychology of public humiliation. The goal was to create something so shocking and emotionally authentic that it would generate millions of views and attract serious sponsorship deals." I felt sick listening to her describe my devastation like a marketing strategy, but I kept my expression neutral and encouraging. "That's actually really smart business thinking," I said, hating every word. "So the whole thing was designed to go viral from the beginning?" "Absolutely. We had 3 different social media marketing companies ready to bid on exclusive rights to the footage. The preliminary offers were already in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range. One company wanted to license it for a national advertising campaign about authentic emotions in the social media age. Her casual mention of profiting from my humiliation was staggering, but she wasn't finished revealing the depths of her betrayal. The best part was how perfectly you reacted, she continued, scrolling through her phone to show me comment screenshots. We needed you to look completely devastated and clueless for the content to work, and you delivered exactly what we needed. Troy was worried you might figure it out beforehand or try to interfere, but I told him you were way too trusting and naive to suspect anything. Then came the confession that made my blood run cold. I'd been monitoring your social media accounts and reading your private messages for weeks to understand your deepest insecurities and psychological triggers. I knew exactly how to engineer the most emotionally devastating scenario possible because I'd been studying your emotional weak spots like a research project. She showed me screenshots she'd taken of our most intimate text conversations, moments when I'd been vulnerable about my fears of public embarrassment and inadequacy. See this message where you told me your biggest fear was looking like a fool in front of strangers? I shared that with Troy and Seth so we could design the mall scene to hit that exact psychological pressure point. The recording device in my jacket pocket was capturing every word of her proud confession, but I needed more evidence to ensure complete documentation. What about all the people who participated? Did they know the truth? Most of the dancers thought they were helping me escape an abusive relationship, she laughed, as if manipulating good people was amusing. I told them you were controlling and emotionally abusive, that this public breakup would teach you an important lesson about respecting women. They were so eager to help a fellow woman that they never questioned my story. She pulled out her phone and showed me a group chat with several dancers where she'd shared fabricated stories about my supposed mistreatment. Look at these messages where I described all the fake ways you'd been controlling me. I made up stories about you tracking my location, monitoring my finances, isolating me from friends. They ate it up completely. The next revelation was perhaps the most disturbing. I also secretly recorded some of our private conversations and edited them to make you sound possessive and demanding. I played those clips for the dancers as proof of your toxic behavior. They were so convinced you deserved public humiliation that they volunteered to participate for free. As the evening continued and the wine flowed, Zoe revealed additional details that made the conspiracy even more extensive. Troy provided a written statement the next morning, detailing his recruitment and payment, including bank transfer records showing the $800 payment Zoe had promised him. He also admitted that the entire scheme was designed not just to go viral, but specifically to destroy this pathetic guy's confidence so completely that he'd never recover from it. Multiple dance studio members had come forward with evidence of the coordinated planning, including behind-the-scenes rehearsal footage that showed them practicing different emotional reactions and discussing the best ways to make me look foolish. They'd even created detailed payment records showing how much each participant received for their role in the elaborate deception. After returning from the lake house with damning evidence, I spent 3 sleepless nights creating what would become my nuclear response. I wasn't just making a simple reaction video, I was producing a comprehensive 45-minute documentary-style expose that would systematically dismantle every lie Zoe had built around the viral proposal. The video was titled, "The Truth Behind the Viral Mall Proposal: How My Girlfriend Orchestrated My Public Humiliation for Fame and Money," and it was structured like a professional investigation report. I opened with the original viral footage, then methodically presented every piece of evidence I'd gathered. The Discord screenshots showing months of premeditation, audio recordings of Zoe's confession at the lake house, Troy's written statement detailing his $800 payment, testimonies from manipulated dancers, rehearsal footage from the studio, and bank records proving financial transactions between all conspirators. The production quality was intentionally professional, clear audio, well-organized evidence presentation, calm narration that let the facts speak for themselves without emotional manipulation. I included timestamps, source verification, and contact information for viewers who wanted to verify any claims independently. Most importantly, I made sure to blur faces and protect identities of innocent dancers who'd been deceived, focusing accountability solely on Zoe, Troy, and Seth as the primary architects of the scheme. On Tuesday morning at exactly 9 a.m., I simultaneously released the video across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit with identical descriptions and hashtags. Within the first hour, it had gained more traction than I dared hope. By hour 6, major social media influencers were sharing it with their followers. By day 2, established news outlets were covering the story as an example of viral manipulation gone wrong. The public response was swift and devastating for Zoe's carefully constructed image. The counterexpose generated over 10 million views in just 48 hours, completely eclipsing the original proposal video that had started everything. Comments sections exploded with outrage directed at Zoe and her conspirators, with many viewers expressing genuine sympathy for what I'd endured. The hashtag Justice for Ian began trending as people shared their own stories of being publicly humiliated or manipulated by partners seeking social media fame. Major social media platforms launched immediate investigations into the original proposal video and its distribution network. TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter all determined that the content violated their terms of service regarding non-consensual intimate content and coordinated harassment campaigns. The original viral proposal video was completely removed from all major platforms within 72 hours, along with hundreds of derivative posts that had mocked my reaction. Zoe's accounts were temporarily suspended pending further investigation, and her follower count plummeted as people realized they'd been celebrating calculated cruelty disguised as entertainment. The professional consequences were immediate and severe. Zoe's dance studio faced the cancellation of 3 major corporate sponsorship deals worth over $50,000 when companies discovered their brand ambassadors had orchestrated public humiliation for profit. The preliminary social media marketing contracts that Zoe had been so excited about were immediately terminated, with one company threatening legal action for being misled about the nature of the content. Several deceived investors who had funded what they believed was organic content creation began threatening lawsuits for fraud and misrepresentation. Troy's modeling agency terminated his contract within 48 hours, citing participation in deceptive and potentially illegal schemes that reflect poorly on our brand integrity. His professional portfolio website was flooded with negative reviews, and several fashion photographers publicly stated they would refuse to work with him. The modeling industry, despite its reputation for tolerating difficult personalities, drew a clear line at participating in coordinated campaigns designed to psychologically destroy innocent people for entertainment value. Seth faced suspension from his dance instructor certification program for professional misconduct, with the certification board stating that his participation in the scheme violated ethical standards for educators and youth mentors. The dance studio where he worked was forced to publicly distance themselves from his actions and implement new social media policies for all instructors. Local news stations picked up the story as an example of how social media culture had created incentives for increasingly cruel and elaborate deception. The original proposal video was analyzed by digital media experts who pointed out editing techniques and staging elements that should have been obvious to viewers but were overlooked in the rush to share and comment on dramatic content. Zoe's attempt at damage control was as desperate as it was unsuccessful. Within hours of my documentary going viral, she posted a frantic response video claiming that I had secretly consented to participate in the performance art piece, and that everything had been mutually agreed upon as a creative collaboration. She threatened to sue me for defamation and invasion of privacy, claiming I'd violated her trust by recording our private conversations without consent. Her family's expensive lawyer sent me a cease and desist letter demanding I remove all content and issue a public apology, but my overwhelming video evidence and witness testimonies made their threats completely hollow. The audio recording of her detailed confession at the lake house, combined with Troy's written statement and the leaked Discord screenshots, created an ironclad case that destroyed every aspect of her defensive narrative. Her claims about my consent were immediately debunked by her own recorded words where she proudly described how trusting and naive I was, how I never suspected anything, and how my authentic, devastated reaction was exactly what they needed for viral content. Legal experts who analyzed the situation on social media pointed out that her threats of defamation lawsuits were baseless since truth is an absolute defense, And everything I'd presented was thoroughly documented and verifiable. The financial consequences for Zoe's family were catastrophic and swift. Her parents' dance studio business suffered devastating losses exceeding $75,000 in canceled contracts and lost revenue as corporate clients distanced themselves from the scandal. The studio's reputation in the local community was completely destroyed, with many parents pulling their children from classes after learning about the calculated cruelty their instructors had engaged in for social media fame. Within 2 months, Zoe's parents discovered the full extent of her manipulation and immediately cut off all financial support, including her apartment rent and car payments, forcing her to move back into their home while they dealt with the business fallout from her actions. Meanwhile, the professional opportunities that emerged for me were completely unexpected and genuinely life-changing. 3 competing pharmacy chains reached out with job offers after seeing how methodically I'd documented evidence and handled the crisis with professionalism rather than emotional retaliation. The hiring managers were impressed by my analytical skills, attention to detail, and ability to remain calm under extreme pressure, qualities that translated perfectly to pharmaceutical work where accuracy and composure are essential. I accepted a position as senior pharmacy technician with a regional chain that offered a $12,000 annual salary increase and opportunities for additional certifications. My social media following grew to over 500,000 people who supported my advocacy for victims of public humiliation schemes and viral manipulation. I began receiving messages from others who'd experienced similar betrayals, and I started using my platform to share resources about recognizing manipulative relationships and protecting yourself from people who view others as content opportunities rather than human beings. The therapeutic work I began was essential for processing the complex trust issues and emotional trauma that came from discovering someone I'd loved had spent months systematically planning my psychological destruction. My therapist helped me understand that what Zoe had done wasn't just a cruel breakup. It was a form of psychological abuse designed to damage my self-worth and public reputation for her financial benefit. The sessions taught me to recognize red flags I'd missed, understand healthy relationship dynamics, and rebuild confidence that had been systematically undermined by someone who'd studied my vulnerabilities like a predator studies prey. But perhaps most importantly, the experience taught me crucial life lessons about documenting truth systematically and refusing to accept calculated psychological cruelty disguised as entertainment or just business. I learned that some people will exploit kindness and trust without any remorse, viewing others' pain as raw material for their personal advancement, and that protecting yourself sometimes requires gathering evidence and fighting back strategically rather than simply trying to be understanding or forgiving. The transformation was profound. I emerged significantly stronger, more confident, and better equipped to identify people whose interest in me was genuine versus those who saw me as a resource to be exploited or manipulated for their own purposes.